So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with two wooden squares. One I've already painted white, one I'm going to leave unpainted. I want to see what the difference is between having that white background and the wooden background. And so for this method, I'm going to use laminate sheets. So let's get started. Alright, so now we are going to get our laminate onto our wood. This is just a laminate pouch. Normally you'd put a piece of paper in the middle and laminate it. In our case, we're going to cut it in half. And you can cut it smaller depending on what you're pressing onto, but I am just going to cut it in half. So these laminate sheets have a shiny side and a kind of a dull side. The shiny side will go up, and the dull side is what will go against your wood when you press it. You're going to press this at 385 degrees for 60 seconds. And you just lay it on there, press it, and you're good to go. Alright, so now that we have our laminate pressed and it's cooled off, we are going to take a razor and just trim it down. So one mistake I made here is I'm kind of doing this on like a project board, like kind of foamy, and that did not. I was having a lot of issues getting it trimmed right. So the reason I did that is because I use a card table and I didn't want to cut into it. Next time I will get like a big piece of wood or something and do it on top of that, so I don't have to worry about it pressing down into the project board. So that's my bad. And so I'm just trimming around here and getting it as trimmed as possible. I did end up having some extra on the side and I got kind of frustrated with that. So this is something you will have to do when you're doing the laminate way. I personally did not like this. So that one is all trimmed. So you can see like I kind of have some on the edge there. And so I just, just trying and get it cleaned up as much as possible. Alright, so now I have my sublimation images printed, about the same size as my wood, and I'm just going to get some heat tape and tape it down. Something I learned from this particular one is you want longer pieces of tape. And now we're ready to heat press. So I'm using my handheld here, so I will have to do this manually. You want parchment paper underneath and on top of the item to protect the pad and the heat press. And I am pressing this for 380 degrees for 60 seconds. Alright, so we're all done with that, the heat pressing. So now we just want to take all this heat tape off carefully because this is hot. And I did this incorrectly. If you notice, I have the paper against the pad instead of the heat press. And so when I took this off, I was in for a surprise to see that, well, nothing pressed. So don't do that. Mistake number one that I made. So I have, I went ahead and repressed this correctly this time. As you can see, I have the paper up instead of the paper underneath. And so you'll just want to be really careful taking this off. It can stick. It's obviously hot. And I see it on there, so it looks like it pressed correctly this time. Alright, so I've got all that peeled off. And here is the image, very shiny on the laminate. This didn't come out perfectly because of my troubles with trimming the laminate off the wood. But if you can get the laminate trimmed better than I did, this would turn out amazing. So it's very vibrant on the laminate, as you can see, very shiny. So I'm happy with the image, just not happy with the laminate trimming. Alright, so on to the next. I am using polycrylic on the wood instead of laminate. So this is semigloss polycrylic that I am just brushing on here. And I will do 2 coats. And I have 2 pieces of wood, and one I'm going to paint white. One I am just going to do the polycrylic directly on to see what the difference is. So like I said, 2 coats of this, pretty thick, layered on. You want to make sure it's fully covered so there's no spots that don't have it when you're pressing this. So yeah, pretty thick, 2 or 3 layers. I do 2. You want them to dry between each layer. So here we go. Here is my second piece of wood. So I'm just going to paint this white, let it dry. Actually, I think I did 2 coats of white. Maybe you probably don't need to do 2 coats just to get it white. So, because you're gonna laminate your image over it. So it just needs to be a lighter color. And so you're gonna do this white, let it dry, and then do 2 coats of your polycrylic, dry between each coat. Alright, so I'm just using the same images. You're gonna cut these out and then heat press. Same, the next steps are all the same. So 380 degrees for 60 seconds for both the painted and the one that I didn't paint. Everything is the same. So here we go. One other change I made is I'm using my bigger heat press, the one that I don't have to do manually. I didn't feel like the pressure was great with my handheld. So this one I am using my big heavy duty heat press. This one I don't love just because it takes up a lot of space and just can be difficult to work with. So, but see here, I set the pressure and I don't have to worry about it. An additional change I made with this process is I let these cool off completely. So I learned that you're not supposed to do it when it's hot. So I did let these cool off all the way, probably about 15-20 minutes. So as you can see, when I start ripping this off, the paper is sticking. Don't worry if this happens. This is completely normal, and I will show you how I got it off. So as you can see, it did go through, and you just want to get the paper as much off as you can, and then I will show you what I did next to get the paper all the way off. To get the paper off that got stuck after pressing it, all you're going to do is take a wash rag and some cool water and get the wash rag wet and scrub away. You can press down pretty hard. You kind of have to. It's not going to ruin the image. It's on there, so you don't have to worry about being too rough with it. So you just do this all the way through. Some of you may not have as much paper stuck on. I had quite a bit, but as you can see, it comes off pretty easily, and then you can see the picture right behind there. So just do this for the whole picture, and then you'll be able to see your end result. For my next attempt, I am using a different kind of polycrylic. I'm using clear matte this time, and I'm going to see if that makes a difference in the way the image shows up on the wood. I didn't like how it had shiny spots, so I'm hoping this makes a difference. So I am all done with that. I do like how the clear matte polycrylic came out better. One thing I did notice that I will change next time I do this, you need to make the image a little bit bigger. As you can see, I have those white lines. That's because it shrunk a little bit when I pressed it. So you just want to make the image slightly bigger than what you're pressing onto. But I like how this came out a lot better than that semi-gloss polycrylic.